Morning sunlight reflected across the glass. Buildings of Raven Bay. The modern coastal city was alive with people, rushing to work. Buses filling the streets, and boats moving across the bright blue harbor. Ryan Brooks looked out from the balcony of his new apartment. Today was the first day of his dream job. At 29 years old, he had finally become a lead architect for one of the largest construction companies in the country. Everything felt perfect. A fresh start, a new city, a better future. Ryan grabbed his coffee and walked toward the train station. As he crossed the busy town square, he noticed a young woman sitting alone on a wooden bench. She wore a light grey coat, dark blue jeans, and white sneakers. Her long brown hair moved gently in the sea breeze. She was watching the people around her with a quiet smile. For some reason, Ryan felt she was waiting for someone. As he walked past, she suddenly spoke. "Tomorrow at exactly 8:32 in the morning. Do not stand near Pier 7. Ryan stopped walking. He looked back at her. "Are you talking to me?"
She nodded.
"A city bus will crash through the safety barrier and fall into the harbor. 34 people will be inside." Ryan smiled politely. "That is a very strange joke." The young woman did not smile. "I never joke about tomorrow." Ryan laughed softly. "If you already know tomorrow, maybe you should buy a lottery ticket." She looked down at the paper cup in her hands. "Winning money changes nothing. Saving people changes everything." Ryan stood quietly for a moment. There was something unusual about her calm voice. She spoke as if the event had already happened. He asked her name. She answered without looking at him. "Ava," Ryan introduced himself. She slowly stood from the bench. "I know." Ryan frowned. "Have we met before?" She looked into his eyes. "Not for you. For me. Tomorrow." Before Ryan could ask another question, a city bus stopped beside the square. Several passengers stepped off. When Ryan turned back toward the bench, Ava had disappeared. There was no sign of where she had gone. Only a folded piece of paper rested on the wooden seat. Ryan picked it up. Written across the page were only 7 words. "Please believe me before tomorrow becomes today." Ryan looked toward Pier 7 in the distance. For the first time that morning, he was no longer thinking about his new job. He was thinking about tomorrow. Ryan slipped the folded note into his pocket as he arrived at his office. Throughout the morning, he tried to focus on building designs and project meetings. But the words kept returning to his mind. "Please believe me before tomorrow becomes today." It sounded impossible. How could anyone know the future with such confidence? By evening, he had almost convinced himself that Ava had simply been playing a strange prank. The next morning, Ryan left his apartment earlier than usual. Without fully understanding why, he walked toward Pier 7. The harbor looked peaceful. Fishing boats moved slowly across the water. Workers unloaded cargo from large ships. Tourists filled the sidewalks. Nothing seemed unusual. Ryan checked his watch. 8:29. He laughed quietly. Maybe I really am losing my mind. Then he noticed Ava. She stood across the street wearing the same grey coat. She was watching the traffic with complete focus. There was no fear on her face, only certainty. Ryan crossed the road. "Ava." She looked at him. "You came." "Of course I came." "Nothing is happening." Ava looked at her own watch. 30 seconds. Ryan frowned. 30 seconds until what? She did not answer. Instead, she suddenly grabbed the arm of a young mother pushing a baby stroller. "This way."
Now.
The surprised woman stepped backward. At that exact moment, a loud horn echoed through the street. A city bus raced toward the intersection. Its driver desperately fought the steering wheel. The brakes had failed. The bus smashed through several parked cars. People screamed and ran. Ryan stood frozen. The bus crashed through the metal safety barrier exactly beside Pier 7. For one terrifying second, it balanced on the edge. Then it plunged into the harbor. A massive wave exploded across the dock. People rushed toward the water. Emergency sirens filled the air. Ryan could not move. Everything had happened exactly as Ava had said. Exactly at 8:32. He turned toward her. "How did you know?" Ava looked at the sinking bus with sadness. "Because yesterday, I watched it happen." Ryan stared at her. "Yesterday." She nodded slowly. "For me." This happened yesterday. Before he could ask another question, Police officers and rescue teams surrounded the area. When Ryan looked back, Ava was already walking away through the crowd. He ran after her. But every street ahead was empty. She had disappeared again. On the ground where she had been standing lay a small silver bracelet. Engraved on the inside were 4 simple words, "One day ahead." Ryan picked up the silver bracelet and stared at the words engraved inside. One day ahead. The metal felt warm in his hand, as if someone had been wearing it only moments earlier. Around him, rescue boats rushed toward the sinking bus. Ambulances filled the harbor with flashing lights. Reporters arrived from every direction. Ryan could not stop thinking about Ava. She had known every detail, the exact place, the exact time, even the number of people on the bus. That night, he searched the internet for any information about her. He searched local news, public records, social media. Nothing. There was no woman named Ava matching her description anywhere in Raven Bay. It was as if she had never existed. The next morning, Ryan returned to the same wooden bench where they had first met. He waited for almost an hour. Just as he was about to leave, Ava quietly sat beside him. She smiled gently. "You found the bracelet." Ryan placed it on the bench. "Who are you?" She looked toward the ocean. "Someone who is running out of time." Ryan shook his head. "How did you know about the bus?" Ava remained silent for several seconds. Then she spoke softly. "What day is it for you?" Ryan looked confused. "Wednesday."
She nodded.
"For me, it is Thursday." Ryan laughed nervously. "That is impossible, I know. But it is true." Ryan stared at her. "Explain it." Ava looked at the busy street ahead. "Every morning I wake up one day ahead of everyone else. When you are living today, I'm already living tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes my present. Yesterday becomes your future." Ryan tried to understand. If that was true, then everything she experienced had not happened for anyone else yet. He asked the question that mattered most. "Can you change what you see?" Ava smiled sadly. "Sometimes, but every change creates another problem. The future fights back." At that moment, a little boy chased a red ball toward the busy road. Without looking, Ava stood and caught him just before a speeding motorcycle passed. The boy laughed and ran back to his mother. Ryan watched in disbelief. "You already knew." Ava nodded. "It happened yesterday." She checked her watch. "I have to leave." Ryan stepped in front of her. "Will I see you again?" She looked into his eyes. "Yes, tomorrow." "For you." "For me." It already happened. She turned and walked away. Ryan looked down at the bench. A folded newspaper rested where she had been sitting. The date printed on the front was tomorrow. Across the front page was a headline that made his blood run cold. "Famous architect dies in construction disaster." The photograph beneath the headline was Ryan. Ryan grabbed the newspaper with trembling hands. The date printed at the top was tomorrow. The paper smelled fresh, as if it had just come from a printing press. He stared at the headline again. "Famous architect dies in construction disaster." Beneath it was a large photograph of him standing outside his office. His heart began to race. He quickly read the article. According to the report, a steel support beam collapsed during the inspection of a new skyscraper. Ryan Brooks died instantly while trying to protect several workers. The accident was scheduled to happen at exactly 4:15 in the afternoon. Ryan looked up. Ava was already walking away. "Wait." She stopped but did not turn around. "You knew this would happen."
She nodded.
"I read that newspaper yesterday." Ryan hurried toward her. "Then tell me how to stop it." Ava finally faced him. "You cannot stop every future. Some futures only change after someone chooses differently." Ryan held up the newspaper. "Then tell me what choice I have to make." Ava looked at him with quiet sadness. "If I tell you everything, you may survive. But someone else might die instead. The future always asks for something in return." Ryan lowered the paper. "How do you live like this?" She smiled faintly. "One tomorrow at a time." Before he could ask another question, Ava looked at her watch. "You should leave now." "Why?" "Because in 3 minutes, a cyclist will lose control at the next corner. He will crash into the glass window of the bakery." Ryan looked toward the street. Nothing seemed unusual. Exactly 3 minutes later, a young cyclist rushed around the corner. His front tire struck the curb. He lost control. The bicycle crashed through the bakery window with a loud explosion of glass. People screamed. Ryan stood frozen. Ava had predicted another event perfectly. She quietly began walking away. Ryan caught up with her. "I believe you now." She looked relieved for the first time. "Good, because tomorrow will be much worse." Ryan frowned. "Worse than my own death?" Ava looked toward the distant skyline, where the new skyscraper was rising above the city. "Much worse tomorrow. The building does not only collapse, someone causes it to collapse." Before Ryan could ask who, Ava handed him a small electronic keycard. "Find the truth before 4:15. Then she disappeared into the crowd once again. Ryan looked down at the keycard. Across the front was the logo of the very construction company, where he had started working only 2 days earlier. Ryan stared at the electronic keycard in his hand. It carried the logo of Horizon Structures, the company where he had just begun working. On the back of the card, someone had written 3 simple words: Level 21. Ryan immediately headed to the company headquarters. The office looked normal. Engineers discussed blueprints. Architects reviewed digital models. Workers moved through the hallways carrying stacks of documents. Everything appeared ordinary. Yet Ryan could not stop thinking about the newspaper. At exactly 4:15 tomorrow, this company believed he would die. He stepped into the elevator and scanned the keycard. Instead of stopping at the public floors, the elevator unlocked a hidden option. Level 21. The doors opened onto a quiet corridor. Unlike the rest of the building, this floor was almost empty. Only one office remained lit. Ryan carefully walked toward it. Inside, several large computer monitors displayed live structural data from the new skyscraper under construction. One screen suddenly flashed red. Structural failure simulation. Projected collapse. Tomorrow. 4:15 p.m. Ryan's heart pounded. Someone had already predicted the disaster. A voice behind him broke the silence. "You were never supposed to see this." Ryan turned quickly. A tall man wearing an expensive black suit stood in the doorway. His company badge identified him as Marcus Hale, Chief Operations Director. Marcus smiled calmly. "You are curious. That can be dangerous." Ryan held up the newspaper. "Do you know what happens tomorrow?" Marcus glanced at it without surprise. "Interesting. So she warned you." Ryan froze. "You know Ava." Marcus slowly walked into the room. "Better than anyone." Ryan stepped back. "Who is she?" Marcus looked through the glass wall toward the unfinished skyscraper rising above Raven Bay. "She was once part of our greatest experiment. Now she is our biggest mistake." Before Ryan could ask another question, every monitor in the room suddenly went black. A few seconds later, a single line of text appeared on every screen. "She has already seen this conversation." Ryan looked around in shock. The lights flickered. Then another message appeared. "Ryan, leave now. They are watching you." The message disappeared instantly. Marcus quietly smiled. "Looks like tomorrow has already begun." At that exact moment, the office door slowly locked by itself. The office door locked with a loud click. Ryan rushed toward it and pulled the handle. It would not open. Marcus remained completely calm. He walked to one of the dark computer screens and placed his hand on the desk. "You should not be afraid. If we wanted you dead, tomorrow would never have warned you." Ryan turned toward him. "Who are you people?" Marcus looked directly into his eyes. "We are the people who built tomorrow." The monitors suddenly came back to life. A large digital file appeared on every screen. "Project Tomorrow. Classified." Marcus touched the screen. Old security videos began playing. Ryan watched a huge underground laboratory filled with glowing machines, massive computers and strange circular devices that surrounded a glass chamber. Inside the chamber stood Ava. She looked younger. She was smiling. Marcus spoke quietly. 5 years ago, we created a machine capable of observing tomorrow before it happened. At first, the experiment worked perfectly. Then something went wrong. The video changed. Bright blue light exploded from the machine. Scientists ran across the room. Warning alarms filled the laboratory. The glass chamber shattered. Everything disappeared inside a wave of white light. Ryan watched in silence. When the light faded, Ava was still standing. But every clock inside the laboratory showed different times. Marcus continued. The machine did not send Ava into the future. It disconnected her from normal time. Now every morning she wakes one day ahead of the rest of humanity. Ryan slowly shook his head. That is impossible. Marcus gave a tired smile. We spent 5 years trying to prove the same thing. Ryan looked back at the video. Why not help her? Marcus' expression became serious. Because every time she changes tomorrow, reality becomes weaker. Small changes become larger. Memories appear before they happen. People begin remembering lives they never lived. Time itself starts breaking apart. Ryan remembered the strange newspaper, the silver bracelet, the impossible predictions. Everything suddenly made sense. Marcus opened a locked drawer and removed a thin black folder. Inside were dozens of photographs. Every picture showed Ryan and Ava together, walking through parks, eating dinner, laughing beside the harbor. Ryan had never lived any of those moments. He looked up in shock. What are these? Marcus answered quietly. Your future, or perhaps your past. Before Ryan could speak again, every photograph slowly began disappearing, one after another, until only a single picture remained. It showed Ryan holding Ava's hand, while the entire city behind them was collapsing into the ocean. Ryan picked up the last remaining photograph with trembling hands. It showed him standing beside Ava at the edge of the harbor. Behind them, the towering skyline of Raven Bay was collapsing into the sea. The sky in the photograph was split by glowing blue cracks. Buildings leaned at impossible angles. Roads disappeared into empty space. People were running in every direction. Ryan looked at Marcus. When was this taken? Marcus answered quietly. It has not happened yet. Ryan frowned. Then how can it exist? Marcus walked toward the window overlooking the city. Because time no longer follows one path. The future is leaking into the present. Every day the cracks become larger. Ryan stared at the photograph again. In the corner was a digital timestamp. 3 days from now. Marcus continued. If nothing changes, Raven Bay will no longer exist. Ryan looked up. Can Ava stop it? Marcus remained silent for several moments. Then he slowly shook his head. She caused it without meaning to. Only she can end it. Ryan felt anger rising inside him. She has been saving people every day. Marcus nodded. Exactly. Every life she saves changes tomorrow. Tomorrow changes the next day. Eventually, the future becomes something that should never exist. The room suddenly began shaking. One of the glass windows cracked. Ryan turned toward the skyline. For a brief second, an entire office building vanished. People walking beside it disappeared with it. Then the building suddenly returned, as if nothing had happened. Cars continued driving. No one reacted. It was as though only Ryan and Marcus had noticed. Ryan whispered, "Did you see that?" Marcus looked exhausted. "It is happening more often now. Time is correcting itself, or trying to." Ryan hurried toward the elevator. "I need to find Ava." Marcus did not stop him. "You only have until tomorrow afternoon. After that, no one will remember the city as it once was." Ryan rushed outside. The streets looked normal again. Crowds filled the sidewalks. The harbor sparkled under the afternoon sun. Yet something felt wrong. A little girl ran past him holding a blue balloon. She suddenly stopped. She looked directly at Ryan. Then she smiled. "I remember the other city too." Before Ryan could answer, her mother called her away. Ryan watched them disappear into the crowd. He looked across the square. Ava was standing beside the fountain. She looked frightened for the first time. When Ryan reached her, she spoke before he could say a word. "Tomorrow has changed again, and this time I cannot see what happens next." Ryan looked at Ava in disbelief. For the first time since they had met, she seemed afraid. People continued walking through the town square, laughing and talking as if nothing had happened. Only Ava looked as though the world beneath her feet had disappeared. Ryan stepped closer. "What do you mean you cannot see tomorrow?" Ava stared at the fountain. "Every morning I wake one day ahead. I always know what comes next. But when I woke up today, there was nothing." Ryan frowned. "Nothing." She nodded slowly. "No streets, no buildings, no people, only darkness." Ryan felt a chill. "Are you saying tomorrow does not exist?" Ava looked into his eyes. "I think time ends tomorrow afternoon." Before Ryan could answer, A strange sound echoed across the square. Every phone nearby began ringing at exactly the same moment. People pulled them from their pockets. Each screen displayed the same message. System error. Date not found. The message disappeared after only a few seconds. Most people laughed and ignored it. Ryan looked at Ava. This has never happened before. She slowly shook her head. Reality is becoming unstable. Suddenly, a pigeon flying above the square froze in the air. Its wings stopped moving. It remained perfectly still for several seconds. Then it continued flying as if nothing had happened. Cars paused. Traffic lights froze. Even the water flowing from the fountain stopped. The entire city seemed trapped inside a single moment. After 5 long seconds, everything started moving again. People continued their conversations without noticing anything unusual. Ryan looked around in shock. Did nobody see that? Ava answered quietly. Only people who have already been touched by the fracture can notice it. Ryan remembered the little girl who had spoken about another city. She had noticed it too. Ava suddenly grabbed his hand. We have to leave.
Now.
They hurried through the crowded streets toward the harbor. As they reached an empty pier, Ava stopped. She pointed toward the ocean. Ryan looked out across the water. Far on the horizon, the sky itself had cracked. A glowing blue line stretched from the sea into the clouds like broken glass. The crack slowly became wider. Ryan whispered, "What is that?" Ava closed her eyes. The edge of tomorrow. Before Ryan could ask another question, his phone vibrated. It was a message from an unknown number. There was no name, only one sentence. Do not trust Ava. She has never told you how the world really ends. Ryan stared at the message on his phone. Do not trust Ava. She has never told you how the world really ends. He looked up at Ava. She was still watching the glowing crack stretching across the horizon. The wind coming from the ocean had become strangely cold. Ryan quietly slipped the phone into his pocket. He did not know who had sent the message, but someone clearly knew about Ava and about the future. Ava finally turned toward him. We need to leave the harbor. Ryan nodded. As they walked through the city, Ryan noticed something disturbing. Several people stopped in the middle of the sidewalk. They looked around with confused expressions. A young man suddenly smiled at a woman he had never met. He quietly said, "Welcome back." The woman stared at him in shock. "How do you know me?" The young man blinked. His smile disappeared. "I do not know. I thought I did." Ryan looked at Ava. She sighed. "They are remembering tomorrow. Little pieces of lives that have not happened yet." Ryan felt a chill. If people can remember the future, what happens next? Ava answered softly. Eventually, no one will know which memories are real. They reached a quiet park overlooking the sea. Ava sat on an old wooden bench. Ryan sat beside her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, Ryan asked the question that had been growing inside him. Who sent me the message? Ava looked surprised. What message? Ryan showed her the phone. She read the words. Her face slowly lost its color. I have seen this before. Ryan looked at her. Where? Tomorrow. Ryan frowned. Who sent it? Ava slowly shook her head. I never found out. Ryan studied her face carefully. For the first time, he wondered if the message was true. Was she hiding something? Before he could ask another question, Ava reached into her coat pocket. She handed him a small photograph. It showed Ryan standing beside a young boy about 10 years old. Both of them were smiling. The date on the back was 5 years from now. Ryan stared at the picture. I do not have a son. Ava looked away. Not yet. Ryan looked at her in confusion. Whose child is this? Ava closed her eyes. I was hoping tomorrow would never come. At that moment, a loud explosion echoed across the city. Both of them looked toward the skyline. One of the tallest glass towers had suddenly disappeared. It did not collapse. It simply vanished, leaving an empty space in the middle of the city. The deafening sound echoed across Raven Bay as thousands of people turned toward the skyline. Ryan stared in disbelief. One of the tallest glass towers had vanished. There was no explosion, no falling debris, no cloud of dust. It had simply disappeared, leaving an empty gap between the surrounding buildings. Cars stopped in the streets. People pointed toward the sky. Some screamed. Others stood silently, unable to understand what they were seeing. Within seconds, emergency sirens filled the city. Ryan looked at Ava. "Did this happen in your tomorrow?" She slowly shook her head. "No, this is new. The future has changed again." Her voice was filled with fear. For the first time since they had met, Ava no longer seemed certain of what would happen next. Ryan realized the one person who always had the answers was now just as lost as everyone else. His phone suddenly rang. The screen showed an unknown number. He answered. Only heavy breathing came through the speaker. Then a calm voice spoke. "You have less than 24 hours. Ryan tightened his grip on the phone. "Who is this?" The voice ignored the question. "If Ava stays alive, Raven Bay will disappear forever." The call ended. Ryan immediately tried calling back. The number did not exist. Ava looked at him. "Was it the same person?" Ryan nodded. She closed her eyes. "They have started contacting you earlier than before." Ryan frowned. "Who are they?" Before Ava could answer, a police helicopter flew overhead. A loudspeaker ordered everyone to leave the city center. People rushed through the streets carrying children and bags. The peaceful morning had become complete chaos. As Ryan and Ava moved toward a nearby subway station, they noticed something impossible. A little girl stood alone in the middle of the sidewalk. She was drawing pictures with colored chalk. Everyone ran around her, but she never looked up. Ryan walked closer. The drawing showed Raven Bay split into two identical cities. One was bright and full of life. The other was dark and completely empty. Between them stood Ryan and Ava holding hands. The little girl looked up and smiled. "There are only two endings now." Ryan knelt beside her. "What do you mean?" The girl pointed to the drawing. "In one ending, the city survives. In the other, love survives." Then she quietly added one final sentence. "You cannot save both." Before Ryan could ask another question, a strong gust of wind swept across the street. The chalk drawing disappeared. When he looked up again, the little girl was gone. Only a small silver coin remained where she had been sitting. On one side was the number 1. On the other side, tomorrow. Ryan picked up the small silver coin from the sidewalk. It felt unusually cold in his hand. One side showed the number 1. The other carried a single word. Tomorrow. He slipped the coin into his pocket and looked around. The little girl had vanished. Crowds continued running through the streets as police guided people away from the city center. No one seemed to remember seeing her. Ryan turned to Ava. "Who was that child?" Ava slowly shook her head. "I have seen her before. Always near the fractures. She appears whenever time begins changing." Ryan frowned. "Does she belong to the experiment?" Ava looked uncertain. "I do not think she belongs to our time at all." A loud alarm suddenly echoed across the city. Every digital billboard switched off. A second later, they all displayed the same message. "Evacuate Raven Bay immediately. Estimated timeline collapse. 21 hours remaining." People stopped in shock. Some believed it was a cyber attack. Others began running even faster. Ryan stared at the giant screens. Timeline collapse. The words felt impossible. Yet after everything he had witnessed, impossible no longer existed. His phone vibrated. A new message appeared from the same unknown sender. "Meet me beneath the old lighthouse. Come alone. If you want the truth about Ava." Ryan looked toward the harbor. The abandoned lighthouse stood alone on a rocky cliff outside the city. He showed the message to Ava. Her face turned pale. "No, you cannot go there." "Why?" "Because every time I remember tomorrow, the lighthouse is where everything ends." Ryan looked into her frightened eyes. "Then maybe it is also where everything begins." Before Ava could stop him, Ryan started walking toward the harbor. Dark clouds gathered above the ocean. The sea became rough. Huge waves crashed against the rocks below the cliffs. As the old lighthouse came into view, Ryan noticed someone already waiting near the entrance. It was Marcus, but he was not alone. Standing beside him was another woman. She looked exactly like Ava. Same face, same eyes, same grey coat. Ryan stopped walking. His heart pounded. Marcus looked at him and spoke quietly. "Ryan, meet the real Ava." Ryan stood frozen outside the old lighthouse. The wind roared across the cliffs as waves crashed against the rocks below. Marcus stood calmly near the entrance. Beside him was the woman who looked exactly like Ava. The same brown hair, the same blue eyes, the same grey coat. Even the small silver bracelet was on her wrist. Ryan could not tell them apart. He looked from one woman to the other. "This is impossible," Marcus nodded. "That is exactly what we said 5 years ago." The woman beside him stepped forward. Her voice was calm. "Ryan, do not believe everything she has told you." Ryan stared at her. "Who are you?" She answered quietly. "My name is Ava Collins. I was the lead scientist of Project Tomorrow." Ryan slowly turned toward the Ava who had been with him. She remained silent. Marcus continued. "The experiment did not create one Ava. It created two. One was pulled one day into the future. The other remained in the present." Ryan looked confused. "Then why do they both exist?" Marcus pointed toward the sky. "Because time split. One Ava belongs to tomorrow, the other belongs to today. Both cannot survive forever." Ryan felt his head spinning. He looked at the woman beside Marcus. "If you are the real Ava, then who is she?" The second Ava finally spoke. "She is the version that should have disappeared during the experiment. Instead, she became trapped between days." Ryan turned toward the Ava he knew. Tell me she is lying." She lowered her eyes. "I wish I could." Ryan stepped back in shock. "Everything I know about you, was it true?" She looked at him with tears in her eyes. "Every memory, every feeling, every moment we shared was real, even if I should not exist." Silence filled the cliff. Only the sound of the crashing waves remained. Marcus handed Ryan a small data drive. "This contains every recording from Project Tomorrow. Watch it. Then decide which Ava deserves to live." Ryan looked at the drive. "Why me?" Marcus answered softly. "Because tomorrow, one of them dies, and only you can choose which one." Before Ryan could respond, the lighthouse suddenly began shaking. Its bright beacon flashed blue instead of white. The sky above Raven Bay split with another glowing crack. This one was larger than all the others. The city had begun breaking apart. The old lighthouse trembled as another glowing crack spread across the sky. Pieces of light drifted through the air like broken glass. Far below, the ocean rose higher against the cliffs. Ryan held the small data drive tightly. His hands were shaking. Marcus pointed toward a room inside the lighthouse. "There is still time. Watch it." Ryan walked inside. Dust covered the old wooden floor. An abandoned computer sat beside the lighthouse control panel. Marcus connected the data drive. The screen flickered. A recording began. The date showed 5 years earlier. Ryan watched a younger Ava standing inside a huge underground laboratory. She wore a white lab coat and smiled at the camera. "If you are watching this, the experiment has failed. My name is Dr. Ava Collins. Today, we are attempting to observe tomorrow without changing it." The video continued. Scientists activated a massive circular machine filled with blue energy. Everything appeared normal. Then warning alarms sounded. The energy inside the machine became unstable. A brilliant flash filled the laboratory. The recording cut for several seconds. When the picture returned, the room was in ruins. Ryan searched the screen for Ava. Then he saw something impossible. There were 2 identical women standing inside the destroyed chamber. Both looked confused. Both believed they were the real Ava. Ryan slowly looked toward the 2 women standing outside the lighthouse. The recording had been telling the truth. The video continued. One Ava reached toward the other. The moment their hands touched, another explosion of blue light filled the room. Every clock inside the laboratory began spinning wildly. The chief scientist shouted, "Separate them immediately. If they remain together, reality will collapse." The recording suddenly ended. The screen went black. Ryan sat in complete silence. Marcus spoke quietly. "From that day forward, we kept them apart. One lived in today. The other woke one day ahead." Ryan looked toward the Ava he had fallen in love with. She stood alone near the edge of the cliff. The wind carried her hair across her face. She looked more alone than ever. Ryan walked outside. He looked at both women. There must be another way. Before anyone could answer, the ground beneath the lighthouse cracked open. A deep blue light burst from below. Then a strange voice echoed from inside the earth. "The final merge has begun. Only one Ava can remain." The ground continued shaking beneath the old lighthouse. The deep blue light grew brighter as another crack spread across the rocky cliff. Ryan stepped back. The strange voice echoed again. The final merge has begun. Marcus looked toward the lighthouse floor. It has opened. Ryan frowned. Opened what? Marcus pointed toward the center of the room. The old wooden floor slowly moved apart. A hidden circular staircase appeared beneath it. Cold blue light rose from the darkness below. The Ava Ryan knew looked frightened. I have seen this place. Ryan looked at her. When? She closed her eyes. Tomorrow. Marcus picked up an old lantern. This chamber was sealed after the experiment. No one has entered it for 5 years. The 4 of them slowly walked down the stone staircase. The air became colder with every step. At the bottom, they entered a massive underground chamber. The walls were covered with strange glowing symbols. Broken pieces of scientific equipment lay scattered across the floor. In the center stood the enormous circular machine from the recording. Its blue energy had returned. It was running by itself. Ryan stared at it in disbelief. I thought this machine was destroyed. Marcus nodded. So did we. One of the computer screens suddenly came to life. A countdown appeared. Final timeline merge. Time remaining. 18 hours. Ryan felt his heart sink. The city had less than 1 day left. The second Ava slowly walked toward the machine. She placed her hand on its glowing surface. Immediately, hundreds of floating images appeared around the chamber. Ryan saw memories that had never happened. He saw himself and Ava growing old together beside the ocean. He saw children laughing in a garden. He saw Raven Bay standing peaceful for decades. Then every image shattered into blue light. The Ava Ryan loved whispered softly, "Those are futures we have already lost." Suddenly, another screen activated. A single message appeared. Subject, Ryan Brooks. Primary connection confirmed. Ryan looked at Marcus. What does that mean? Marcus slowly lowered his head. We never told you the final truth. You were not chosen by accident. You were always part of Project Tomorrow. Before Ryan could ask another question, a hidden door at the far end of the chamber slowly opened. Inside stood another man. He looked exactly like Ryan. Ryan could not move. The man standing inside the hidden chamber looked exactly like him. The same height, the same dark hair, the same blue eyes. Even the small scar above his right eyebrow was identical. It was like looking into a mirror. The stranger slowly stepped forward. He wore a black jacket instead of Ryan's brown coat. His face looked older, not by years, but by experience. He smiled sadly. Hello, Ryan. Ryan stared at him. Who are you? The man answered quietly. I am you, tomorrow. Silence filled the underground chamber. The blue machine hummed softly behind them. Ryan laughed in disbelief. No, that is impossible. The stranger reached into his pocket and removed a worn leather wallet. Inside was an old family photograph. Ryan looked closely. It showed him Ava and the little boy from the mysterious photograph. The child was smiling between them. Ryan's hands trembled. The photograph had become real. The stranger looked at the picture. His name is Noah. He is our son. Ryan slowly stepped backward. I do not even know if I have a future. The older Ryan nodded. That is why I came back, to protect it. Marcus lowered his head. The machine has become unstable. It is pulling people through broken timelines. Older Ryan looked at Ava. Both versions of her. You only have one chance left. Ryan asked the question that terrified him. Can the city still be saved? Older Ryan remained silent for a moment. Then he answered, yes, but not all of us. He walked toward the glowing machine. 5 years from now, I used this machine to return here. I thought I could change everything. Instead, I made the fractures worse. Ryan frowned. Then why come back? Older Ryan looked directly into his eyes. Because I finally learned the truth. The future cannot be rewritten, only accepted. He handed Ryan a small silver key. It was engraved with one word, tomorrow. This key opens the machine's core. When the countdown reaches 0, only one person can enter. The one who enters will repair time forever. Ryan looked at the glowing machine. Whoever stepped inside would decide the fate of Raven Bay. Before anyone could speak again, The machine suddenly released a powerful wave of blue energy. The chamber shook violently. Older Ryan looked toward the ceiling. His face turned pale. We are too late. Someone else has already entered the future. The man standing inside the hidden chamber looked exactly like him. The same height, the same dark hair, the same blue eyes. Even the small scar above his right eyebrow was identical. It was like looking into a mirror. The stranger slowly stepped forward. He wore a black jacket instead of Ryan's brown coat. His face looked older, not by years, but by experience. He smiled sadly. "Hello, Ryan." Ryan stared at him. "Who are you?" The man answered quietly. "I am you, tomorrow." Silence filled the underground chamber. The blue machine hummed softly behind them. Ryan laughed in disbelief. "No, that is impossible." The stranger reached into his pocket and removed a worn leather wallet. Inside was an old family photograph. Ryan looked closely. It showed him Ava and the little boy from the mysterious photograph. The child was smiling between them. Ryan's hands trembled. The photograph had become real. The stranger looked at the picture. "His name is Noah. He is our son." Ryan slowly stepped backward. "I do not even know if I have a future." The older Ryan nodded. "That is why I came back, to protect it." Marcus lowered his head. "The machine has become unstable. It is pulling people through broken timelines." Older Ryan looked at Ava. "Both versions of her. You only have one chance left." Ryan asked the question that terrified him. "Can the city still be saved?" Older Ryan remained silent for a moment. Then he answered, "Yes, but not all of us." He walked toward the glowing machine. 5 years from now, I used this machine to return here. I thought I could change everything. Instead, I made the fractures worse." Ryan frowned. "Then why come back?" Older Ryan looked directly into his eyes. "Because I finally learned the truth. The future cannot be rewritten, only accepted." He handed Ryan a small silver key. It was engraved with one word: tomorrow. This key opens the machine's core. When the countdown reaches 0, only one person can enter. The one who enters will repair time forever. Ryan looked at the glowing machine. Whoever stepped inside would decide the fate of Raven Bay. Before anyone could speak again, the machine suddenly released a powerful wave of blue energy. The chamber shook violently. Older Ryan looked toward the ceiling. His face turned pale. We are too late. Someone else has already entered the future. A powerful wave of blue energy surged through the underground chamber. The glowing machine roared louder than ever before. Dust fell from the ceiling as the lighthouse trembled above them. Ryan tightened his grip on the silver key. Someone has already entered the future. He looked at his older self. Who? Older Ryan stared at the machine. I do not know. But whoever crossed first can change everything. The countdown continued. 17 hours, 52 minutes. The Ava Ryan loved stepped toward the machine. Its blue light reflected in her eyes. I have seen this moment. Ryan turned to her. What happens? She shook her head. The future ends here. After this point, I see nothing. Marcus hurried to one of the damaged computer terminals. He managed to restore power to a cracked monitor. A security recording appeared. It showed the chamber only a few minutes earlier. Everyone watched in silence. A tall figure wearing a black hood entered through the hidden door. The person's face was completely hidden. Without hesitation, the stranger inserted a silver key into the machine's core. A portal of blue light opened. The hooded figure stepped inside, then vanished. Ryan frowned. Can you identify them? Marcus enlarged the footage. The image remained blurry, but one detail was clear. The stranger wore the same silver coin around their neck, the coin engraved with the word, tomorrow. Ryan reached into his pocket. He pulled out the coin the mysterious little girl had left behind. It was identical. Ava's eyes widened. Oh. Ryan looked at her. You know this coin? She nodded slowly. Only one person carries that symbol, the guardian of tomorrow. Older Ryan's expression changed. I thought they were only a myth, Marcus whispered. They are real, and if they have entered the future, then they will decide which timeline survives. Suddenly the machine projected a glowing map of Raven Bay into the air. Several parts of the city were disappearing. Entire streets blinked in and out of existence. Hospitals, schools, bridges, everything was slowly fading away. Then a bright red point appeared in the center of the map. The machine displayed one final message. Primary timeline core located. Central clock tower. Ryan looked at everyone. If that is where the future is breaking, then that is where we have to go. Before they could leave, the hooded stranger's voice echoed through the chamber. You are already too late. I have been waiting for you. Since tomorrow, the mysterious voice echoed through the underground chamber. I have been waiting for you. Since tomorrow, the glowing machine suddenly fell silent. The blue energy around it disappeared. Only the countdown continued. 17 hours, 21 minutes. Ryan looked around. Show yourself. A cold wind swept through the chamber. The hidden doorway slowly opened by itself. A hooded figure stepped inside. The long black cloak covered the stranger from head to toe. Around the neck hung the same silver coin engraved with the word, tomorrow. The stranger removed the hood. Ryan froze. It was the little girl. But she was no longer a child. She looked about 25 years old. Her silver eyes seemed to hold countless memories. Marcus whispered, The Guardian. She smiled faintly. That is only the name people gave me. Ryan stepped forward. Who are you? The young woman looked directly into his eyes. Someone who has lived the same tomorrow for more than 100 years. Silence filled the chamber. Ava stared at her. That is impossible. The Guardian nodded. So is everything else in this room. She walked toward the glowing machine. Every time reality collapsed, I survived. Every time the timelines restarted, I remembered. 112 cycles, 112 failed futures. Ryan felt a chill. You have watched the world end. 112 times, she answered quietly. Yes, and every ending begins the same way, with the two of you. She pointed toward Ryan and Ava. Marcus lowered his head. Then the records were true. The Guardian continued. Every cycle, Ryan chooses Ava, the city disappears. Millions of lives are erased. Ryan looked at Ava. Then I choose the city. The Guardian slowly shook her head. You already tried that, in 37 different timelines. Ava still died. The city still vanished. Older Ryan stepped forward. Then tell us how to stop it. For the first time. The Guardian looked afraid. There is only one future where everyone survives. Ryan took a step closer. What do we have to do? She looked at him with sadness. Find the first tomorrow, before tomorrow finds you. At that moment, the silver coin around her neck began glowing. The entire chamber disappeared. Ryan opened his eyes. He was standing alone. Back in Raven Bay, on the morning he had first met Ava, everything had started again. Ryan stood in the middle of the town square, unable to breathe. Morning sunlight reflected from the glass buildings of Raven Bay. People hurried to work. Boats moved quietly across the harbor. Everything looked exactly as it had on the first day he arrived in the city. The same street musicians played beside the fountain. The same coffee shop opened its doors. Even the city bus passed at the exact same moment. Ryan looked at his watch. 8:10 in the morning. His heart pounded. This was the day he had first met Ava. Had time truly started over? A familiar voice spoke behind him. Tomorrow at exactly 8:32. Do not stand near Pier 7. Ryan turned immediately. Ava sat on the wooden bench, wearing her gray coat, holding a paper coffee cup. She smiled gently. But this time Ryan did not laugh. He hurried toward her. I know who you are. Ava looked surprised. Do you? Ryan nodded. You live one day ahead. There are two versions of you. Project Tomorrow destroyed reality. The Guardian sent me back. Ava slowly stood. Her expression changed from surprise to fear. That has never happened before. Ryan frowned. What do you mean? Every cycle begins with you ignoring me. You are not supposed to remember. Ryan realized something impossible had happened. For the first time in 112 timelines, someone had broken the pattern. Ava looked around nervously. If you still remember. Then the cycle has changed. Ryan asked the question that had haunted him. What is the first tomorrow? Ava lowered her voice. It is the only day that exists outside every timeline. The day before the experiment. The day before reality broke. Ryan stared at her. Can we reach it? She nodded slowly. Yes, but only one person can enter. Ryan felt the silver key growing warm in his pocket. Suddenly, the ground beneath the square shook. Everyone else continued walking as though nothing had happened. Only Ryan and Ava noticed the cracks spreading across the pavement. A glowing blue doorway appeared in the center of the street. The Guardian stepped through it. She looked directly at Ryan. "You remembered. That means the final cycle has begun." Before anyone could react, the blue doorway started collapsing. The Guardian reached out her hand. "Ryan, come with me. If we are 1 second too late, tomorrow will never exist again." Ryan grabbed the Guardian's hand just as the glowing doorway began to collapse. A powerful wave of blue light surrounded them. The streets of Raven Bay disappeared. For a moment, Ryan felt completely weightless. Then everything became still. He slowly opened his eyes. The city looked familiar, but something was different. The buildings were newer. The harbor was still under construction. Huge cranes stood along the waterfront. Workers walked through unfinished streets. There were no glowing cracks in the sky, no strange disappearances, no signs of chaos. The Guardian looked around quietly. "We made it." Ryan stared at the skyline. "Where are we?" She answered softly. "The first tomorrow. The last normal day before the experiment changed everything." Ryan looked at his watch. The date was exactly 5 years earlier, 1 day before Project Tomorrow was activated. Ava slowly appeared beside them. She looked around in disbelief. "I have never been here before." The Guardian nodded. "Because this place exists outside every broken timeline. No one from the future was ever meant to return." Ryan noticed people walking nearby. Scientists entered a large research facility overlooking the harbor. One of them caught his attention. A young woman stepped out of a car carrying a stack of research files. She looked exactly like Ava, only younger. She was laughing with her colleagues. She had no idea what would happen tomorrow. Ryan whispered. "That is her, the real beginning." The Guardian nodded. "Tomorrow she enters the machine. Tomorrow reality breaks." Ryan asked the question that had been haunting him since the beginning. "Can we stop the experiment?" The Guardian remained silent. Finally she answered, "Yes. But if we do, everything created after tomorrow will disappear. Every friendship, every memory, every life born because of the broken timelines." Ryan thought of the little boy in the photograph. Noah. He would never exist. He looked at Ava beside him. She understood without him saying a word. Tears filled her eyes. "Ryan, if you stop tomorrow, you will never meet me." Before Ryan could answer, a loud alarm echoed from the research facility. Scientists began running outside. The Guardian looked toward the building. Her face suddenly turned pale. "Impossible." Ryan followed her gaze. Standing near the laboratory entrance was a knot. Ryan stood frozen. Across the street, another Ryan walked toward the entrance of the research facility. He looked 5 years younger. His face was full of excitement as he carried a portfolio of architectural designs. He had no idea what was about to happen. The Guardian whispered, "Do not let him see you." Ryan stepped behind a construction truck. His heart was pounding. "How is this possible?" The Guardian answered quietly. "This is the original timeline, before you ever became trapped in the fractures. That Ryan has not lived any of this. He still believes today is the beginning of his dream life." Ava watched silently. Tears filled her eyes as she looked at the younger Ryan. "He looks happy." Ryan nodded. "Because he still has a future. For now." They followed him from a distance. The younger Ryan entered the research facility and greeted several engineers. Everyone smiled at him. One scientist handed him a security badge. "Project Tomorrow. Senior structural consultant." Ryan stared at the badge. "I worked on the experiment? Marcus never told me that." The Guardian sighed. "Because he wanted to protect you from the truth. The machine that fractured time needed more than scientists. It needed an architect. Someone had to design the containment chamber. You did." Ryan felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath him. "This is my fault." The Guardian looked at him. "Not intentionally. You believed you were helping humanity. No one knew the machine would tear reality apart." Suddenly a loud voice echoed through the laboratory. "Dr. Ava Collins has arrived." Ryan turned. The original Ava entered the building carrying a tablet filled with research notes. She looked confident, hopeful, completely unaware of the tragedy waiting just one day ahead. The Ava standing beside Ryan could not stop staring at her. She whispered, "That was the last day I was only one person." Ryan gently held her hand. "Then we stop it." The Guardian slowly shook her head. "Nothing is ever that simple." She pointed toward a glass observation room above the laboratory. Someone was already inside, watching the experiment before it had even begun. Ryan focused on the figure. His blood ran cold. It was the older Ryan, the version who had traveled back from the future. He had arrived before them, and he was already changing the past. Ryan stared at the observation room high above the laboratory. Older Ryan stood behind the glass, watching the scientists prepare Project Tomorrow. He had arrived first. He was already changing the past. Without another word, Ryan ran toward the research facility. The Guardian tried to stop him. "Ryan, wait. If you rush in now, you could destroy the timeline yourself." But Ryan kept running. He entered the building and climbed the emergency staircase 2 steps at a time. His heart pounded louder with every floor. Finally, he reached the observation room. The door was unlocked. He pushed it open. Older Ryan was standing in front of the giant glass window, looking down at the enormous circular machine. He did not turn around. "I knew you would find me." Ryan stepped closer. "You came here before us." "Why?" Older Ryan smiled sadly. "Because I finally understood the truth." Ryan demanded an answer. "Then tell me." Older Ryan slowly faced him. "You cannot save Ava. You cannot save the city. You cannot save Noah. But you can choose which future deserves to exist." Ryan shook his head. "There has to be another way." Older Ryan walked toward the window. "For 5 years I searched every timeline, every possibility, every sacrifice. There is only one ending where reality survives." Ryan whispered. "What is it?" Older Ryan looked directly into his eyes. "The experiment must happen." Ryan froze.
What?
"If the machine never activates, millions of lives across the fractured timelines will never exist. If it does activate, reality begins to collapse. Either way, someone loses everything." Ryan felt trapped. Every choice destroyed a different future. Behind them, the laboratory came alive. Scientists began activating the machine. Bright blue energy filled the circular chamber. Dr. Ava Collins stepped inside the glass capsule. She smiled confidently at her team. She believed history was about to change forever. She had no idea she was right. Ryan turned back to older Ryan. "Then why did you return?" Older Ryan reached into his pocket and placed a small photograph in Ryan's hand. It was the picture of Ryan, Ava, and Noah. "This future only exists if you make the impossible choice." Before Ryan could ask what that choice was, warning alarms suddenly echoed throughout the laboratory. The experiment had started. The machine began glowing brighter than ever before. Then every clock inside the building stopped at exactly the same second. Every clock inside the research facility stopped. The second hands froze. The digital displays went completely blank. Silence filled the laboratory. Then the circular machine released a deep pulse of blue light that shook the entire building. Scientists looked around in confusion. Warning alarms flashed red across every monitor. Dr. Ava Collins stood inside the glass chamber. She looked toward the control room. "Is something wrong?" No one answered. Ryan gripped the photograph of Ava and Noah. His hands were trembling. He looked at older Ryan. "Tell me the impossible choice." Older Ryan took a slow breath. "You must let the experiment begin. But before the fracture is complete, you must take Ava's place." Ryan stared at him.
What?
The Guardian stepped into the observation room. "His future is telling the truth." Ryan looked at her in disbelief. "If you enter the machine instead of Ava, the fracture will close around you. Time will heal. The 2 versions of Ava will become one again. The city will survive," Ryan whispered. "And me?" The Guardian lowered her eyes. "You will become the anchor of time, neither alive nor dead, neither in the past nor the future. You will exist outside every tomorrow, forever." Ava stepped toward Ryan. "No, there has to be another way." Older Ryan slowly shook his head. "I searched every timeline. 113 futures. This is the only one where Raven Bay survives." Ryan looked through the glass at the younger Ava. She was smiling at her team, unaware that her life was about to change forever. He then looked at the Ava beside him, the woman he had fallen in love with. Tears rolled down her face. Ryan gently held her hands. "If this saves you, then it is worth everything." Ava shook her head desperately. "I would rather lose the world than lose you." Ryan smiled softly. "That is why the world deserves to keep you." At that moment, the machine reached full power. Blue lightning surrounded the chamber. The countdown reached 0. The Guardian looked at Ryan. "If you choose this path, no one will remember your name."
Not even Ava.
Ryan took one final look at her. Then he began walking toward the glowing chamber. Just before he reached it, a small voice echoed through the laboratory. "Daddy." Ryan slowly turned around. Standing in the doorway was the little boy from the photograph, Noah. The entire laboratory fell silent. Ryan stared at the little boy standing in the doorway. He was no more than 10 years old. Dark brown hair, bright blue eyes, the same gentle smile from the photograph. Noah, it was impossible. He had not been born yet. He should not even exist. The boy slowly walked into the room. No one except Ryan, Ava, the Guardian, and older Ryan seemed able to see him. The scientists continued preparing the experiment as though he were invisible. Ryan knelt in front of him. "Who are you?" The boy smiled. "You already know." Ryan felt his throat tighten. "You are my son." Noah nodded. "For one future." Ryan looked at Ava. Tears streamed down her face. She understood. Noah was not a ghost. He was the final memory of a future that was about to disappear forever. The Guardian stepped closer. "The timeline is collapsing. He cannot stay much longer." Noah reached into his pocket and pulled out a small wooden compass. Its needle spun wildly before stopping. He placed it in Ryan's hand. "This always helped me find you." Ryan looked down at the compass. On the back were 4 carefully carved words. "Love never needs time." Ryan could no longer hold back his tears. "Will I ever see you again?" Noah smiled with a sadness far beyond his years. "Maybe, if another tomorrow is ever born." He hugged Ryan tightly. For one brief moment, Ryan felt what it was like to hold his own son. Then Noah stepped back. His body slowly became transparent. He looked at Ava. "Thank you, Mom." Ava broke down in tears. She reached toward him, but her hand passed through light. Noah looked at both of them one last time. "You gave me the happiest future. Do not be sad because it ends. Be happy because it was real." A brilliant blue light surrounded him. Within seconds, he disappeared completely. Only the wooden compass remained on the floor. The laboratory shook violently. Cracks of blue light spread across the walls. The Guardian looked at Ryan. "There is no time left. Choose now." Ryan closed his hand around the compass. Then he turned toward the glowing chamber. Without another word, he stepped inside. The moment Ryan stepped inside the glowing chamber, the glass door sealed behind him. Blue light surrounded his body. The entire laboratory shook as waves of energy spread through every wall. Scientists shouted in confusion. Warning alarms echoed across the building. Dr. Ava Collins looked through the glass in disbelief. "Who is he? Why is he inside the chamber?" No one answered. Outside the machine, Ava pressed both hands against the glass. "Ryan, please come back." Ryan smiled gently. Although he could no longer hear her voice, he knew exactly what she was saying. The Guardian stepped beside the control panel. "This is the final moment. When the machine reaches full power, the broken timelines will merge into one. Everything that should never have existed will disappear." Older Ryan quietly closed his eyes. "My journey ends here." His body slowly began turning into glowing particles of light. Ryan watched from inside the chamber. "Why are you disappearing?" Older Ryan smiled. "Because you have made the choice I never could. You have become the true future." As his final words faded, older Ryan dissolved completely into thousands of golden lights that drifted into the machine. The countdown reached its final seconds. 5, 4, 3. Ryan closed his eyes. Memories rushed through his mind. The first time he met Ava on the wooden bench, the bus crashing into the harbor, the mysterious silver coin, the old lighthouse, the Guardian, the impossible futures, Noah laughing beside the ocean. Every memory became a glowing thread of light. The machine absorbed them one by one. Ryan felt himself becoming lighter. His body slowly dissolved into pure energy. Outside the chamber, Ava screamed as tears rolled down her face. She remembered every moment they had shared. Then, one by one, those memories began disappearing. She could still see Ryan, but she could no longer remember his name. The blue cracks in the sky slowly closed. The vanished buildings returned. The ocean became calm. The clocks inside the laboratory began ticking again. For the first time in 5 years, time was whole. Just before Ryan disappeared completely, he looked at Ava one final time. She smiled through her tears. Even though she no longer knew who he was, her heart still refused to let him go. Then the chamber exploded into brilliant white light, and Ryan was gone.